Chris Goffey investigates an East German dynasty. And Tony Mason joins the classic rallying crowd in the Yorkshire forests.
If you spent around £20,000 or maybe even more on a high-performance road car and want to enjoy it to the full, you've either got to get on a racetrack or leave England and head for the autobahns of Germany. For this trip, we chose the Rover 220 Coupe Turbo, the fastest production car Rover's ever produced, on offer for only £18,400. This was a car to measure alongside the best in class from Ford and Vauxhall, the Escort Cosworth and Calibra Turbo, high-performance cars at a reasonable cost. Now I'm relaxed and comfortable and cruising at 130 miles an hour. I'm not going to look at the camera or take my hands off the wheel, but it's perfectly safe in this high-performance car and perfectly legal on this quiet German autobahn. So often after accidents you hear the cause was that people were driving too fast. But it's always a question of driving too fast for the conditions. Too fast around a corner, too fast in a built-up area. On a quiet English motorway, 80 miles an hour may well be perfectly safe. Whilst when it's busy, 70 miles an hour might be too fast. If it's raining, 50 miles an hour might be too fast. If it's foggy, 30 miles an hour might be too fast. But speed should always be related to the conditions. Indeed, the Rover at 130 miles an hour was relaxed and confidence-inspiring on the smooth autobahn. It was stable passing slower traffic, and because the Germans are used to these high speeds, the lane discipline is excellent. But as the traffic builds up, you do need to ease back. So the Rover is very impressive for high-speed cruising. But what's it like around country lanes? Let's take the scenic route. 200 horsepower driving the front wheels can be an embarrassment under some conditions, but the Rover power plant has a beautifully smooth delivery that almost belies the fact that it's turbocharged. But it needs plenty of cooling, and the noisy fans were a real irritation at slower speeds or in traffic. Handling around the tight hairpin bends didn't show the Rover at its best. Heavy, dead steering gave little feel. And was that wheel spin I detected? When this Turbo Coupe was launched, I was impressed when I heard it had traction control. But it hasn't. Well, it has if you count an advanced Torsen limited slip differential. But in modern terms, this is not traction control. In Damon Hill's Williams, or even in a humble Ford Mondeo, the latest traction control means you can't spin the wheels and burn rubber. Electronics sense when the tyres are about to slip, and they then reduce engine power to prevent wheel spin. Of course, there are other reasons than unrestricted autobahns for going to Germany, and this is one of them. The Nürburgring is the best driver's circuit ever built, and it's open to anyone. And so out onto this old Nürburgring circuit. We paid our 15 marks, just, what, £5, and we're now going to do a lap of this wonderful track and really see how this Rover performs. Into these tight corners, second gear. The Rover turns in very well as we power out, though. Traction good on that corner. Heading now down to Adenauer Bridge, one of another famous landmarks of the circuit. Braking on the Rover needs a lot of pressure, but they work very well indeed. We flick left and right, uphill. Well, we're about halfway around the Nürburgring now, and I'm in two minds really about the Rover. The ride is very good. It takes all these little bumps and undulations at high speed very well, but cornering, the actual handling, well, there's understeer as you'd expect with a front-wheel drive, but unlike the Calibra, it's not very predictable. There isn't very good feedback through the steering. It doesn't give the driver that satisfaction that I look for. Now this climbing approach to the carousel, you always aim for Jackie Stewart's tallest tree. So if we aim for that straight at the tall tree, it leads you into the carousel. This banked corner, bumpy concrete, but a real feature of the Nürburgring. The driving position on the Rover isn't that good, to be honest. Although I can get my legs comfortable, there's no telescopic adjustment on the steering wheel. So, as with the Vauxhall, I can't quite get the arm lengths right. Also, the seats, nice leather, but that's not what you need on a racetrack. They don't really hold you that well either.
But then, the Rover wasn't designed for the unbridled pleasure of driving around 13 miles of the glorious Nürburgring. As a fast road car, it's attractive, well built and very quick in a straight line. But the spongy steering and unpredictable handling has taken away much of the fun. It beats the Vauxhall Calibra for its stylish interior, but for driver satisfaction, give me the Escort Cosworth any day.
Blue, oily exhaust smoke, the infamous trademark of the East German Trabant. A car that nevertheless created quite a stir in last year's RAC rally when it successfully completed all 350 stage miles and didn't even come last. East Germany may have disappeared off the political map, and with it production of Trabants, but you can still spot them puttering through the prairie landscapes of Cambridgeshire. The last time I was in a Trabant, I remember being frightened to death. I'd had this long discussion with an engineering student in Budapest, in Hungary, and he ran me back to my hotel at about midnight across the wet cobbles of Budapest at 60 miles an hour, intent on demonstrating the phenomenal road holding and performance of this car. And I swore blind I'd never get into another one again.
You say you're having fun, but you're busy going nowhere. Just lying in the sun.
The tiny little two-stroke engine wails away up front. The whole thing shakes and vibrates. The gear change with this bit of bent steel is almost impossible to decipher. And when a corner comes up and you lift off, nothing happens because there's a freewheel. There's no engine braking at all. Owner of this impressively awful bit of automotive history is farmer and broadcaster Oliver Walston. Well, Oliver, that renewed some unpleasant memories. This is hardly a ball of fire out on the road, is it?
It's worse when you've driven it 600 miles from Berlin, then you really know it.
And what are you sitting in?
Well, I'm sitting in something which is really, the purists would say, isn't really a Trabby at all, although in practice it is. It was the last one the factory made in April 1991 as a desperate, ultimately hopeless attempt to sell it to the West. It's got a Volkswagen Polo four-stroke engine, hydraulic brakes, independent front suspension, and best of all, it's got a fuel gauge.
Yes, but I mean, surely it's taken away the whole appeal of the car.
Well, it's taken away the appeal of the car if you're a nut like me, but I imagine if you're just an ordinary Trabby driver in East Germany, this would have been heaven on wheels.
I must have a go. Well, one man's heaven on wheels can be another's motorised dustbin. The more East Germans became exposed to Western cars, the less enchanted they became with the performance and safety of their Trabbies. Now, obviously, Trabant knew things couldn't go on the way they had been. The wind of change was blowing through Eastern Europe, and there was no way the little two-stroke engine could even approach European emission legislation. The answer seemed to be an agreement with Volkswagen, and at first they fitted the 1.1-litre Polo engine together with a decent four-speed gearbox to the little Trabby, but nothing could disguise how basically horrible this little car is. With the demise of the Trabby, the factory today assembles Golfs, whilst they await the completion of an all-new VW factory nearby. So is Oliver's Polo Trabant the high spot of his prize collection, housed in one of his elegant barns?
I think it completes the collection. There's every single model Trabant made, starting in 1961 with that yellow one there, which is terribly difficult to find in East Germany. They've just about all fallen to pieces.
Well, what is the appeal of Trabant to you? I mean, they're never a high spot in automotive technology, were they?
Purely history. As technology, they stink. They are appalling. They have nothing interesting about them whatsoever technologically, rather the opposite. But they somehow epitomize everything there is bad, not so much good, about Eastern Europe in general and Eastern Germany in particular. Which is why, as you drive a Trabant down a country lane in England, people who aren't car nuts wave at you and cheer and clap and sort of grin. Everybody seems to know about Trabants. That's what appeals.
I mean, you're spanning, what, 30 years of Trabants, and yet there's not a lot of difference between them.
There's almost no difference at all. The yellow one, the original one, 500cc as opposed to 600cc. Outwardly, except for the yellow one, there's no difference. Inwardly, if you're a real Trabi connoisseur, you notice that they've switched from 6 volt to 12 volts, and they have a few other exciting things, like they have an economy meter on the latest ones, but to all intents and purposes, there's no difference. And why should there be? They had no competitors. They just sat there year after year with a captive market. All they had to do was to change the dashboard once a decade, and that was their strength, and it was also their weakness. They're made from a plastic which is almost impossible to get rid of, so that today in Germany, if you want to get rid of your Trabi, you have to pay the local authorities 100 quid to take it away and crush it up and recycle it. 100 quid, which explains why wherever you go in East Germany, you see the carcasses of rotting Trabants by the roadside, because nobody wants to pay 100 quid for the privilege of getting rid of a car.
They would never have made it in the Western world, though, would they? Because they wouldn't pass safety or emission standards.
They certainly don't pass emission standards. If anybody's seen a Trabi start up on a cold day, you need a gas mask if you're within 100 yards. Safety-wise, I'd hate to be hit by a pedestrian, let alone another car. It just would crumple. No, they couldn't possibly make that.
OK, not your usual run-of-the-mill classic, but a symbol of what future historians could well rate as the most important single event of the latter half of the 20th century, the fall of communism, as the first Trabants puttered through those breaches in the Berlin Wall.
Springtime in Hull and the starting point for the 550-mile Charrington's Historic Rally, Britain's toughest classic car event. For the first time ever, these pre-1966 rally cars were to be let loose in the Yorkshire forests, famed for having the fastest tracks in Britain. Stars of yesteryear were in abundance. It'd be interesting to see if the cars and their drivers would stand up to it. In the TR4, what memories does that bring back?
Well, the last one I drove was in 1963 or 1964, I think, when we drove it to Yugoslavia and back to the Triumph team. So it will bring back memories, I think.
How does it feel?
Well, I've only driven it from the car park to here, so I haven't really had a chance to see who's boss with it yet, but give us 3 days, we'll be all right.
Björn, you're an active competitor. What are you doing in a historic rally?
They say it's so funny, so why not try it? And at my age, it should be the sport I should do, isn't it?
This is your next career, is it?
You never know, and it's fantastic to sit in the old Porsche again.
A lumbering Ford Zephyr was on parade among the sleek Porsches, which to many looked like brand new models.
Don't you think it'll blow them off?
It must be quite a handful.
It's quite big.
And the trees get a bit close.
I like it, though. I like it. It's just a nice car.
Is this the end of Tiffany Dell, the racing driver?
No. We still prefer going round and round in circles. These trees are a bit too close to the trackside for my liking.
Classic rallying is the fastest growing branch of motorsport at the moment. What started out a few years ago as a bit of fun is now becoming quite serious stuff. Although the cars must be pre-1966, the crews can be of any vintage, and modern-day enthusiasts can mix and mingle with their heroes, many sitting alongside them if they have a suitable car for the occasion.
Well, we're fast for the minis coming up. If you want 2, 1, go! There we are, Tiffany Dell from BBC Top Gear. Give him a cheer. We might never see him again, if we're lucky.
Last year's winner, Jerry Larson from Sweden, headed the convoy on the quick, smooth stages in North Yorkshire. For Roger Clark, though, they were anything but smooth. The TR4's low suspension making it clatter along like a toboggan.
Bumps coming.
And it was far removed from the tarmac of the Nürburgring for our man Tiff and co-driver Ian Bond.
They weren't on the original notes, were they?
Fast right. Fast right.
The big Healy was always a handful in its heyday, and still is.
Junction, open hairpin left. Hairpin left.
And this is what is known in the trade as ditch hooking. 1984 World Rally champion Stig Blomqvist, chauffeuring the car's owner, Dr. Beatty Crawford from America, was a little more circumspect. Roger Clark was still ploughing on, and to add to his troubles, his horn was dropping off.
And junction.
Fast left.
These logs. Bother these logs. And...
John Haugland from Norway made his name driving Skodas in World Championship rallies. Tiff was getting the hang of mini-motoring, but doing a lot of shouting into the bargain.
Where's my left foot? I missed my left foot braking!
Tony Dron in the big Ford was happily playing the role of mobile chicane to the Porsches, which seemed to be everywhere you looked and starting to dominate the event. From the RAF, Harrison Prowse piloting their Lotus Cortina. But this was the last competitive sighting of Norman Grimshaw and John Clegg, who ended up perched on top of a rock. In the 60s, Porsches dominated European rallying. But then again, so did the Mini Cooper, although this particular one would have to do better than this to win this rally.
90 left. Left. 90 left. What are you doing?
I was looking at those arrows.
The TR4s were never really at home in British forests, but in classic rallies, who cares? Everyone's here to have fun, albeit serious fun. The boys from the RAF appeared to be on a secret night mission. Everyone else had their headlights on.
Next, come on!
Left. Easy left.
Next, I've got to have the next one sooner.
Rallying is meant to be a team effort.
Junction, hairpin right. Junction.
But the poor old navigator
right.
seems to take all the flack from these glamorous driving types. Of course, they're always perfect. For Roger Clark's TR4, the Yorkshire forests were proving a bit too much. He retired at the end of the night with a whole sump. Back in the forests, the pressure was on, with assorted Porsches blowing everyone off.
90 right.
Including our glamorous racing driver. Notice, the navigator is the epitome of politeness and says nothing. But of course, there's always an excuse.
So it's just the handbrake button I got. I pulled the handbrake up, which has been working well, got the button stuck in, and then we slewed sideways.
Correct.
Okay?
At the end of the first day, there was time for quick service at Beverley before cars and crews were locked away for the night back in Hull, and a time to reflect on the day's performance.
Well, the car's going very well. The driver's crap, but the car's going very well.
What do you think of these stages?
They're very interesting, but made the wrong choice of tyres. They're a bit too light on the rubber, but very, very nice, very nice. Not at all boring.
Norman, we hear you've had problems.
Yeah, we fell off in a ditch on the last stage. We were in there for about an hour, so we're OTL at the moment.
What, you mean you're out of the event?
We're not sure, are we?
No, I think we're allowed to play.
I think we're allowed to play tomorrow, which we will do, of course.
So you didn't do much damage then?
No, it was just wedged on the sump shield and the chassis. We just couldn't get it out.
And what do you put that down to? Over-exuberance?
Complete stupidity on behalf of the driver.
Dawn saw a few unexpected hazards that had to be removed, but after a short night's sleep, the cars were reseeded in their positions in the rally, and guess which ones were dominating the leaderboard. In the 60s, Scandinavians were everywhere in rallying, and it was the same here. Bo Warmenius in his Lotus Cortina was highest non-Porsche, ahead of Tiffany Dell's Mini. Michael Preising from Germany was content just to trundle along in the most ungainly car in the event, a 1959 Opel Olympia. From further afield, two Japanese gentlemen whose near-kamikaze antics had them travelling on the very edge. Scarborough is more used to motorbike racing. The narrow 4.4-mile circuit makes overtaking difficult, but there wasn't too much of that as the cars set off at 15-second intervals. Nevertheless, everyone was enjoying this first smooth stage, and even Roger Clark came out to play in his low-line TR4. Competitors tackled this stage twice, attempting 2 laps each time. The Volvo P544 was always notoriously tail-happy, and this one bore the odd battle scars to prove it. But rally drivers aren't meant to play around on tarmac too long, so it was back to the woods and the most fabulous rally noise of all, a big Healy in full cry. And another distinctive sound, its smaller stablemate, the MGB. Last year's winner Larson was languishing in 3rd place in the gaggle of 911s, which was headed by Åke Andersson in number 7.
Well, we're getting towards the end of the second day, at the end of the Yorkshire stages, and nobody can do anything about all these Porsches. In fact, some people are saying it's rather boring. Are you going to do anything about all these Porsches, Tiff?
No, we've forgotten the Porsches, so it's just those Cortinas. We're getting a bit serious about trying to catch the Cortinas and being the first non-Porsche.
Well, we've spent the day working our little whatnots off and getting absolutely nowhere against these porkies.
Are you you're in a sort of separate race, really? This is a non-Porsche division, is it?
Oh, there's some very nice rallying going on outside of all the Porsches. We're having a great time. And unfortunately, another Swede is knocking spots off us in the Lotus Cortina.
Are you going to slow down tomorrow, then, so we can catch you up? You're going to give us a chance.
I just go faster and faster and faster.
Well, if you keep going faster, hopefully you will crash soon.
No. Faster and safer, all the time. When I crash, it's always in the beginning of a rally.
Andersson, what happened?
Oh, last stage, Horace driving. I enjoy driving very fast, but here is goes out rolling.
How many times did you go over?
But one doors and roof sliding.
Oh, sliding on the roof. The place where you have the crash is very famous, where Hanno Mikkola, he once crashed in the same place. Really? Yes. So you're in good company. So, an eventful and hilarious day for our Japanese friends, who next morning set forth to the land of the rising sun, Scunthorpe. If you thought the forests were a bit tough on the old cars, look at this little lot. This is the huge British Steelworks at Scunthorpe. It covers 1,700 acres, produces 30% of the country's steel, and there are 39 miles of private tracks, and boy, are they rough. No prizes for guessing the make of leading cars on the Sunday morning, day 3. Again, the first non-911, Bo Warmenius in his Lotus, going faster and faster. And also going better and better was the intrepid duo in the Mini. Tiff now had Bo in his sights. He'd already got ahead of the other Lotus Cortina of ex-European racing champion John Hanley and Tony Moy.
Next! What's next?
Easy right, right.
Although the Top Gear Mini had been going well, as it neared the end of the stage, something sounded not quite right. It would have to be all hands on deck to keep it in the rally. Cadwell Park in Lincolnshire provided a pursuit sprint, but it was touch and go if Tiff would make it.
Not in gear.
With the engine in bits and time running out, things didn't look too good. What was at first thought to be a broken clutch turned out to be more serious, a broken crankshaft. For Åke Andersson and Lars Torell, things couldn't have gone better. They led from the start and won the Charringtons in fine style. Following them onto the ramp, you've guessed it, another 6 of the dreaded Porsches.
Next week in Top Gear, the ultimate Mercedes coupe, the grandfather who plays dominoes with cars, and the British Rally Championship goes to Killer Kilda.